While we may have been successful in flattening the COVID curve, our battle against financial woes may not be over. Household debt levels are at a historic high, which has highlighted just how close some people are to a financial crisis. Joining us now is Blair Manton from Sands & Associates with some debt management pitfalls to avoid. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, before the pandemic, there was research showing many people didn't have a lot of savings and were carrying a lot of debt. How much worse has this gotten during the last few months?
Well, it definitely hasn't gotten better. There's been a lot of things creditors have done. They've done payment deferrals, different government supports for income. But all it's done is really kick the can down the road, so to speak, meaning that a lot of folks are going to have interest bills to pay or things added to their mortgage. People generally aren't paying down debt right now. They're just in a sense of kind of suspended animation, waiting to see what happened. In the last year, in calendar year 2019, there was already a 10% increase year over year in bankruptcies and consumer proposals. So the BC consumer was already pretty vulnerable before this whole pandemic hit.
Now, when dealing with debt, some people might look at co-signing a line of credit or maybe a loan. Is this something you would recommend?
Almost never is that a good idea. So if folks are listening, if you're really trying to help out a friend or a family member, before you co-sign, really keep in mind a couple of things. First off, you need to understand if you co-sign a debt, you are 100% responsible for the amount. It's not a 50-50 liability. So if that person can't pay, you're going to be on the hook 100% of the debt. And for the individual looking to have the debt co-signed, you need to think, owing the bank is one thing, but owing mom and dad, brother, sister is a totally other thing. There's another level of emotion that can make it just so difficult if eventually you can't pay the debt and it's going to hurt somebody you really care about.
Now, a lot of people have RRSPs. They might be thinking about cashing those in to pay off debt. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are it's a huge mistake. In just about every case, cashing in your RRSPs is not going to solve the problem. First off, you're going to be taxed on the withdrawals. You're probably going to get less than what you think. It's usually not enough to solve the debt problem in totality, and then you're not going to have the money when you need it in retirement. And the final thing, and most people don't know this, is RRSPs are federally protected assets. Just like a company pension plan, that can never be seized from you to pay your debts. But if you go and cash it in, it absolutely can be seized if you're going to use it for your debts. You've just compromised your future and your retirement. So really think twice, get advice before you consider cashing in RRSPs to pay debts.
A lot of people feel embarrassed about talking about money, talking about debt, but how important is it to say, I need help, I need to talk to a professional?
It's so critical to get the right advice at the right time, especially when you're facing a debt problem. And the way I look at it is the people that really want the best for you, they care so much about you, they often have the least amount of knowledge, unfortunately, on what you can do to get out of debt. Not a lot of people know that in detail. The folks who know all the rules about debt are the collectors, the collection agencies, the creditors. They want to be paid, and they're not necessarily out for your best interest as well. So really make sure you get professional debt advice. A licensed insolvency trustee is an independent person licensed by the federal government who's going to give you all the information essentially for free on what you can do to get out of debt.
Briefly now, we have an economic recovery plans from the government, but what about for our own personal economic recovery plan?
You absolutely need to put together your own recovery plan. I encourage anybody carrying debt, look at your credit card statements, understand even $1,000 of debt can be a 10-year payment plan at minimum payments, and realize you've got to get off that hamster wheel. You've got to do something different. So take a chance right now, look at what you're going to be able to pay down debt. And if you're not going to be able to pay it off quickly, talk to a licensed insolvency trustee.
All right. Thank you so much, Blair, for joining us this morning. Some solid advice. Blair Manton from Sands & Associates.